Hi, I'm Jennifer Hobson-Plattner, and I am here to teach you about an outline today for History 215. Behind me, I have what your outline will look like. I just wanted to explain it to you so you could be more successful when you turn it in this week. It is due this Sunday at 11:55. It isn't a very difficult assignment as long as you know what's expected, but it really does help you write your paper, and that's what's most important. Okay, so you're going to turn in an outline this week, and it just needs to be one page, maybe one and a half. You need to be thinking of what your title is going to be for your history paper, research paper. And as historians, we like catchy titles. You don't have to have a catchy title, but really make it thought-provoking and something that really piques interest. Second thing, so I have your title up here. Second thing is, this week I will require your thesis. Your thesis is really important. A good thesis will help you write your paper. So this week I am going to post a sample paper, which always helped me when I was writing to read sort of a good paper. This was an A paper in a previous class, and I've asked the students' permission. And quite honestly, I hope that I get some sample papers from this class as well. And then I usually ask their permission and use it in the future. So the first thing you need to know about this paper is that you are taking a stand. A statement. You're making a statement, and you are arguing your point. This is a wonderful thing about history, because whenever we can argue our point, even if someone disagrees with us, it is really a valuable tool to be able to argue without being angry. I read recently that if you argue your point and you're angry, it actually shuts down the part of your brain that actually processes reason. So it's really important in any profession that you're choosing to be able to argue your point, whether you're arguing your point to get a raise, or arguing your point if you are a nurse and maybe some different care of a patient, or if you're in business. There's all kinds of different ways to do things and to argue your point. So that's kind of where we're coming from. This is an argument. Do I want it to be a screaming argument? Absolutely not. But do I want it to be a sound, airtight, solid argument? And the interesting thing is, if you and I have opposing viewpoints, I can argue my side with three great points with evidence and example, and you can argue your side and have an opposite stance with three great points with evidence and example, and you'll get, it's not about the point, it's about a well-argued paper, and you can definitely get an A on either side if I'm grading someone's paper and there's opposing views. Okay, so you will have this paper that I'm reviewing right now, and he has a very catchy title. His title is The Assembly of the Middle Class. And this student is really worked on that catchy title. I really like that. But what he's talking about is Henry Ford, and how the assembly line and Henry Ford's innovation of it really catapulted the middle class in the United States. And so I'm going to provide several sample papers each week so that you can read, because everyone has a different style. And a lot of times when I see a style that's more like my own, I kind of latch onto that and mimic it in different ways. Now, is this a perfect paper? No. Was it an A paper? Yes, it was. So we will talk about that. So the first step is you need an introduction. Okay, your introduction needs to have something catchy or exciting in it. Now, you're just doing the outline this week, but be thinking as you should be looking through all your sources, your one primary source and your other sources as well. And if you see something, an interesting quote, an interesting story, something that really is interesting, jumping out at you, you want to put that in your introduction. Okay, so you something interesting, and your thesis goes in your introduction as well. Because actually your thesis usually is the last line of your paragraph. So you have something interesting. They call it an upside down pyramid. Something interesting. So this is your paragraph. Okay, and then when you get to the bottom of that paragraph, it goes from something broad down to something more specific, which is your thesis. Okay, so here's your thesis. And in your thesis, you will have the 3 things you're going to argue about. You will have them within it. Okay, so I had put 1 here for the first argument, and I need to add your second would be here, and the third would be here as well. Okay. All right. All right, so if you are reading this paper called The Assembly of the Middle Class, he actually has a great title. I would have wanted him to put something more interesting in his introduction. He didn't. Okay, but his thesis is very solid, and here is his thesis. Usually your thesis is the last line of your introduction paragraph. His is actually the second to the last. Okay, that's okay. Makes sense. It's okay. You don't have to do it exactly, but if you're new to writing, I would stick to the skeleton at hand. Okay, so his thesis is, this new process, led by Henry Ford, would kickstart the movement leading to better wages for workers, a greater interest in consumerism, and support for the budding middle class. Okay, so that is his thesis. He's going to argue that Henry Ford is responsible for a movement that led to better wages for workers, greater interest in consumerism, and support for the building of the middle class. And so those are his 3 arguments, okay? And as we go along, you'll be able to see his first argument. He'll have evidence and examples, a couple paragraphs, because this is a 5-page paper, okay? You do want to shoot for the 5 pages. All right. And his second argument, evidence example. His third argument, evidence example. And then, of course, your conclusion. And in your conclusion, you kind of sum up what you found in your findings. And then you kind of give an analysis of it. And that's the trickiest part, is the analysis. But as we do this step by step by step, it really falls together. It really does. So what I'm going to be looking for in his paper, first step, here you're going to be writing your introduction, your outline, and it's going to look like this. Okay, it's the skeleton for the paper that I'm going over right now. So what he is saying is he's going to argue this new process will lead to, let's take a different color. This is better wages, which it really did, better hours and better wages. His second point is he's going to talk about consumerism. And his third point will be the building. He says budding, and later on he does talk about building the middle class. Okay. And what I want to see when you're writing the paper is that you actually go in the steps that you say in your thesis. So don't go 3, 2, 1. If the first thing you mentioned is first, then argue about it first. You can put them in any order you want. Just make sure, as a reader, I can follow you. Okay, and then you'll have your conclusion. And he does that very well in his paper. So you will need your thesis. I would like that underneath your outline, and make sure you put your name on your outline as I grade them. You do need a thesis. I will post again a thesis video to help you get your thesis. If you have any more questions about your thesis, you can send them to me, and I can give you some advice on tweaking them here or there. But you definitely need your thesis this week. All right, I'm going to require that. So you have your introduction, and then you're going to put your interesting fact. You only need a few words or a sentence under each of these. You're going to put your thesis here, your first argument. You're going to tell me what it is and what evidence and examples you plan to use. Okay. You can also do the 1 and 2s underneath the A's and B's if you like, if that's your style. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but the more details you do now, the easier it is to just write it. And it does make it easier. And then you'll have your second argument that you're going to talk about, so you'll put that instead, and then your evidence and examples, and your third argument, and then your conclusion. So you just need a sentence for each, or just a few words to show me where you're going with your research paper. Okay, and if you have any questions, please email me. I'm always happy to help. I've provided my cell phone number as well. Text is best, but if you're stuck on something, we can always Skype or talk on the telephone, or I'll even come to campus and meet you as well, because I just really believe that this is such an important piece of history class. Being able to argue, it helps you in every single, I believe, area of your life, as well as your future careers. So thank you very much, and have a lovely afternoon.